Okay, to get started on our continuous granny square blanket, we are going to chain 5, and then slip stitch into the first chain, and we'll create a little ring. And so I pull that tight, the ring is in the middle here, and it's going to create a little hole in the middle for you to work into. So what you're going to do is chain 3 and into that hole work 2 DCs, sorry, 2 DCs on this first one, because your chain 3 acts as your third DC. Then chain 3 to make the corner, and do 3 DCs into that center again. Okay, you'll have to give these a tug around the ring to get them straightened out. Chain 3 to make another corner, and then 3 DCs into the middle of the ring. Chain 3 again. And then 3 DCs. And then chain 3 to make the last corner. Then you're going to take your chain and slip stitch into the third chain of the starting chain, so the very top of that starting chain. Slip stitch into there. So you'll see you have clusters on 4 sides and 3 DC corners in each corner. Pull this tight so it's a little easier to see. So to make this bigger, we're going to slip stitch across the other 2 stitches of this cluster, and then slip stitch into the chain space. And then we're going to make our corner, which is 3 DC, then 2 DC, so we make a cluster, our starting cluster. And then 3 DC for the or 3 chain for the corner. Then 3 DCs into the chain space. And that's a corner. There's going to be a corner just like this in every corner, going all the way out to the edges of your blanket. So this is a straight place, so I usually only do 2 chains between my clusters, and that keeps my blankets laying flat. But if you like to do 3, you go right ahead. Try it out and see what you think works when you get a sample done about the size this sample will be. So we're going to do another corner in this corner, which is 3 DCs, chain 3, and then 3 DCs again, all in that same chain space. Chain 2 on a straight section, and then we're going to do another corner here. So 3 DC, chain 3, and then 3 DC again. Then we're going to go straight. So chain 2, and we're going to do another corner here. So 3 DC, chain 3, and 3 DC again into the same space. And we're going to chain 2 here, and we're back to our starting spot. So we're going to slip stitch into the top of that cluster chain. And you can see how this is starting to grow. So, doing another side, let's slip stitch over to our corner space and do a first corner. That first cluster starts with chain 3 and then 2 DCs to make our first cluster stitch. Then chain 3 and DC back into the same space to finish the corner. Now we're on a straightaway again, so we're going to chain 2, and we have a nice chain space to work in the straight place here, so we're going to put 3 DCs in there. As our sides get longer, we have to add a cluster to each side to make it grow. So we're still going straight, so chain 2, and now we need to do a corner. So chain 3, or DC 3, sorry. Chain 3, DC 3 again, chain 2, so now we're going straight again, 3 DC into our next chain space, chain 2, keep going straight. Now we're in a corner again, so we're going to 3 DC, chain 3, 3 DC into this chain space. I'm going straight again, so chain 2, 3 DC in the next chain space, chain 2, and we've reached another corner, so 3 DC, chain 3, 3 DC into the corner again. Chain 2, because we're going straight, 3 DC into the chain space, chain 2, and we are back to where we started again. So we slip stitch into the top of that chain of our beginning DC, or beginning DC cluster, I guess. And you're seeing how this is starting to grow into a square. So you just keep going around just like that. You're gonna slip stitch to the corner, do a corner here, 3DC, chain 3, 3DC, and then do chain 2, cluster, chain 2, cluster, and then when you get to your next corner, you're going to do a corner again. And do chain 2 and 3DC into the chain space for your next straight across your next straightaway, and all the way around until you get back to the beginning, and then do it again. You can just keep doing this over and over again until your blanket is the size that you want it to be. When you get to the color changes, I highly recommend slip stitching across your DC and changing your colors in your first space instead of changing it right here at the beginning of the round. That way there isn't just the new color across these top 3 stitches. So you'd slip stitch to here and then change your color when you started your next corner section. That makes the color changes look a little cleaner. So get started on your granny square. Make a practice one about this size and see if it lays flat. If it's curling up a bit, it might mean that you need to put 3 chains in between each cluster on the edges or on the straight sides too. If it's rippling a lot, you might be using too loose a tension, or if you are using 3 chains and it ripples, that means you need to use 2. But I find that using 2 chains in between the 3DC clusters on the straight edges keeps my blankets laying flat and gives them a cleaner look. So, okay, so now we're going to put a border on our granny square blanket. When our blanket is as big as we want it to be, we're just going to pretend mine is like a gerbil blanket. You slip stitch into the top of your chain just like you do at the end of every round, and chain 1, and then SC into the next stitch, and SC into that next DC. And then in the corners, we're going to work 4 single crochets. Just to keep that corner kind of expanding outward. And then work an SC in each of the DCs. So 3 SCs. And then we're going to put 2 SCs in the chain 2 space. And so that way we're going to have an SC in every stitch and 2 SCs in every chain space, and then 4 SCs in the corners. So I'll keep going for you for a little bit. There's SC, 1, 2, 3 across the cluster, 2 into the chain space, 1, 2, 3 across the cluster, and we're at a corner, so 4 into this chain space. We're going to go all the way around, adding an SC border till we get back to the starting point, and we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch. I will meet you there. Okay, so we've SC'd all around, and we've put 2 SCs in the last chain 2 space before our starting point again, and I didn't do a very good job of explaining that. So you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, skipping that chain, so that everything continues to lay nice and flat. Except for that part that I pulled up over there. So next we're going to just change color with a slip stitch. So just change color with a slip stitch. And chain 1 to make sure that line stays clean. And then SC, we're going to 5 SC, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with our new color, and then picot, which is a chain 3, and then you slip stitch back into the first chain and pull it just a little bit tight. So then when you SC5 again, 2, 3, 4, 5, you left this cute little nub or a picot. So SC5 again, picot, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch back into the first chain. And make sure you're not working back into that same stitch. Make sure you are working into the next one, or else your count will get off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and picot. When you get back around to the other edge, sometimes the count is still off just a little. So sometimes you'll have, say, 6 here before you get to picot in your last stitch. That's okay. Nobody's going to notice one tiny stitch on a huge blanket. So just do your 5 SCs and picot, 5 SCs, picot all the way around, including on the corners. Don't increase on the corners because it will still lay flat, I promise. And that is how you add your border to your blanket. I love to see pictures of finished blankets, so when you get them done, post them in the comment section or even just shoot them to me in an email, and I'd love to see it. Thanks. Bye.